Hi, this is Randy. I get a little bit irritated when the media and people in general call everyone a narcissist who has, one trait, like they're a cheater or they're arrogant. And there's nothing wrong with identifying toxic people and identifying healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships and setting boundaries and all that. But on my channel anyway, I am talking about narcissistic personality disorder. I'm talking about generally covert narcissists, people on the higher up on the cluster B continuum, and having not reached the level of a sociopath or psychopath, but definitely somebody more than just a toxic person or somebody that is immature, unable to have a relationship, or that has some of the traits. So aside from that, there's also not always the distinction between the covert and the overt narcissist. So I usually am referring to the covert narcissist when I'm speaking, because that's the experience that I've had. The DSM has those 9 traits, the narcissistic personality disorder, and I guess you have to have 5 out of the 9. I didn't go to the DSM, I just looked up one of the YouTubes because a lot of people have mentioned these traits. So what I want to do right now is explain how a covert narcissist will have these traits, but you won't see them. You won't be able to determine that they have the traits until you get very close to them. So, for example, a grandiose sense of self-importance. That's one of the NPD traits. Well, if it's obvious, like, say, Donald Trump, grandiose sense of self-importance, or I won't even say Trump, I'll just say an overt narcissist will be very grandiose, and you'll be able to see it. But a covert narcissist will be grandiose, and you will not know that they feel that way about themselves. You will not see that they think that they're more important than others. You won't be able to tell that they're grandiose, except when their mask slips a little bit, just through a side comment or two that might make you suspect something. It will not be obvious that they are grandiose until you hear something come out of their mouth that sounds appalling, and then when you ask them, they'll say they were just kidding. Part of it's to gaslight you, another part of it is because they realize they just slipped. They're covert because they're hiding these traits. They know these traits are distasteful. They know these traits are not something that anybody wants to be around or wants to admire in another person. They've figured that out. These are the parts of themselves that they hide. So it's not so easy to tell when they have them. The next one, exaggerates their achievements. When people are talking about their achievements, how do you know if they're exaggerating them or if they're true? You don't. You have to actually really know that person. You have to be able to hear them exaggerating their achievements but you actually know the truth. Not that you just think they're being arrogant and cocky and exaggerating, but that you know for a fact they're exaggerating. And a lot of times they're not doing it to you, they're doing it with another person, and you overhear them. You see how they exaggerate their achievements when they're talking to someone else, maybe on the phone, maybe a business partner, maybe someone new that they just met. And you just notice it, file it away in your memory. Sometimes it doesn't come back. Exaggerating things, period, is also a trait that you can look for. People who exaggerate a lot, whatever it is, that's something that I would look for. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean exaggerating about their own achievements. But exaggerations are distortions of the truth. And they're those things that you can have easy, plausible deniability about when confronted. So I think that's one thing that the narcissist does. He slips on his exaggerations, but then just kind of laughs them off. It's another one of those traits that, oh, he or she exaggerates, no big deal, right? It's not dangerous, you wouldn't think. Put them together with all the other traits, and you have a full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. Fantasizes about power and fantasizes about ideal love. Now, we don't know what people's fantasies are unless they tell us. So you would have to be inside the mind of a narcissist in order to know if they truly were fantasizing about power or fantasizing about ideal love. Especially with a covert narcissist, they're not very open about what their fantasies are. So you just hear it in small ways. You pick up on it that they may have fantasies about their own power just by certain things that they say. You pick up on it because of their expectations of you. If you're in love with them, they're in love with you, supposedly. That they may have unrealistic expectations about what would be humanly possible, and that would lead you to think that maybe they do have fantasies about what idealistic love is or ideal love is. My point here again is that these are not obvious, and when you can't get into people's heads because we can't read their minds, it's kind of tricky to figure out that they actually have these traits. They require constant admiration and attention. To me, that's the overt narcissist who does that. The covert narcissists often are shy, and they may be charming, and they may even pretend to be humble. They actually will get attention and admiration in ways that are covert. Like, it doesn't seem like it was set up. It'll seem like it was accidental, or it will seem like it was natural, or that they're not like really wanting it even. They may pretend that they don't want the attention that they create or that they bring about. So there are a lot of nuances to the covert narcissist who actually has NPD and not just traits. And it's a lot more involved than what is in the DSM-3 or 5. I guess we're on the 5 now, right? Okay, a sense of entitlement. You will see the covert narcissist when they're one-on-one with you. If you have a close relationship with them, you will be able to see their sense of entitlement. However, if you just meet them, you might get a sense, or if you work with them, you might get a sense that they feel entitled. But you won't really be able to put your finger on it necessarily. Again, it'll just slip out. You won't be able to prove it, really, that they have this overwhelming sense of entitlement and that others should comply with their wishes. Now, especially if you're dealing with a boss. You may have an NPD boss. Well, it's natural that a boss would want others to comply with their wishes, right? But the key thing here is it unreasonable? That's the key word, unreasonable expectations. Not reasonable expectations. Not even like difficult expectations, but very unreasonable expectations. Things that are just more than asking for you to give a little bit more. Things that don't make sense. Things that other people don't have to do, but you have to do. A sense of unfairness. You get that sense that they truly feel that they're better than you. And the the hypocrisy also needs to be there. But, then again, when you're in a boss and a subordinate situation, you may feel that anyway, and that boss isn't narcissistic. So it's just something to think about, the nuances of these things. And the more covert they are, harder it is going to be for you to detect that they actually even have these traits. Exploitative, lying, pretending to be someone that they're not. So let's say they're a salesperson. Salespeople need to make money. Sometimes they distort the truth, or they exaggerate their product. They have their own reasons. At some point, it's exploitative, and it's a fine line between just being a hard salesman or a good salesman and actually exploiting the customer. Do they lie to other people and not you? A covert narcissist might do that. They might not be lying to you, but you catch them lying to other people and exploiting other people, or you suspect that they're exploiting other people. And when it's one person removed and they're not doing it to you, believe me, they will end up doing it to you eventually. But that's something that you take note of. A covert narcissist might let their guard down on exploiting others in front of you, and as long as it's not being done directly to you, they may think they can get away with it. File that one in your memory when you see that happening. A lack of empathy. Well, the covert narcissists fake empathy, so you can't tell that they don't have empathy. The only way you can tell is over repeated times where you're trying to get them to empathize with you, and they are outright not wanting to hear it and clearly don't give a shit about anything you're saying. And the covert ones will end up doing this to their partner. They'll do it behind closed doors, but they won't do that in front of normal, outside in society with friends or acquaintances. They know all the right things to say. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. Oh boy, that must have been hard. They know how to fake the empathy, believe me. This is a hard one to detect unless you're right in their inner circle with them. That they're unable to identify other people's distress. No, I find that they can easily identify it. They've watched movies, they've read books, they know how they're supposed to respond. They just don't respond that way to you because, they have a little secret with you. They let their guard down with you to see how much you're going to take. But to the outside world, they'll look like they have empathy. They think others are envious of them. You'll probably never know that unless they slip. And the last one, being patronizing and critical of others. You might see them criticizing a lot of people that they don't know, maybe on TV, in the newspaper, politicians, being very critical to others. That's another sign.